Ladies and gentlemen, good evening everybody. Thank you so much for coming on this last little bit of sunshine that we've seen this year. First thing I have to do is to apologise on behalf of Adam Dingle, our chairman, who's luxuriating in the beautiful weather that you associate with this time of year in South Wales under canvas. So it's his own fault, isn't it? Right, so it falls to me, it's my pleasure to introduce the two speakers this evening. And despite both being good friends of long standing, I'm ashamed to say that I'm resorting to a piece of paper so that I don't say anything I'm not supposed to. Graham Wiley's going to start the evening off. Graham is a mechanical engineer by training that spent 30 years as an IT consultant working for various aerospace companies and has now retired, despite being younger than me. That's not fair. Had a lifelong interest in aviation, took his first flying lesson at Hackney Green at the age of 19, and is a member of the Royal Aircraft Association. Built his first aircraft, an A-22 Foxbat in 2007, which he still flies from Wolverhampton Airfield. He's been a member of our Birmingham, Wolverhampton and Cosford branch for over 35 years, and is a volunteer on the Aeronautical Society's Build a Plane Challenge. And the rest of it, I'm guessing, is in the presentation.
Yes.
Over to you, Graham.
Oh, good evening. Can you all hear me okay? Yes. Jolly good. Right, great for being invited to talk to you about the Schools Build a Plane Challenge. It's a project that I've been on for a few years and I'm very proud to be part of it. That's me, Graham Wiley. We'll see the other projects that I've been working on. The first aircraft that we built is a RAeS S6 Coyote. And it's quite a coincidence really, because when I was at school, my nickname was Wiley Coyote after the hapless Looney Tunes character. I hope I can be a bit more successful than he was in catching the Roadrunner. Anyway, I'd like to start off with a short video made by the Society that explains quite a bit about the project, so it sort of sets the scene.
I'm gonna walk 100 miles, I'm gonna whistle all the while, if that's what it takes to make me smile. I'm gonna walk 100 miles, I'm gonna run right up this hill, summer sky or winter chill, if I gotta take a break I will, but I'm gonna run right up this hill. I wanna hold the whole wide world right here in my open hands, and maybe I'm just a little girl with great big plans.
The Royal Aeronautical Society has been involved in education programs for many years. This particular program, we have been working very closely in conjunction with Boeing. This is one of the most exciting programs I've been involved in my career in aerospace. The enthusiasm of the youngsters involved has really been quite infectious. They're able to get actively involved in building something that they will eventually fly. But more importantly, it helps them much better understand all of the aspects of STEM, science, technology, engineering and maths involved.
RAeS supports the Schools Build a Plane Challenge because we believe it's important to inspire people into engineering and sciences.
It's such a fantastic opportunity for students in our school to be involved in a project such as this.
So much of what goes on in the classroom is collaborative. So if they can actually see what it can lead to, then that really inspires them.
All of our students have done work on flight in their design technology courses.
So there's been a tangible difference in attitude. You have got kids engaged, you've got kids trying to move into better groups, you've got kids suddenly desperate to get GCSEs in maths because they can see what it can relate to.
It's also improved their relationship with teachers, with myself. It's improved their motivation and their work ethic, and at the end of the day that's going to make them better pupils, they're going to achieve better grades.
Over there I guess we've already got a couple of guys who could easily be airframe fitters. They're that good in the air.
There's been a lot of enthusiasm from the kids, and it's been brilliant.
I heard about it and then like, me and my mate tried about all doing it. We thought this would be a good challenge.
I think it would be a real shame to know that this project happened in my school and I didn't take part in it.
We're really surprised that the school's building the plan.
It's something that gave me skill, it gave me confidence.
It's just fun.
I think it's such a huge sense of achievement as well. Like, it's the sort of thing that most people don't even think about doing, you know.
I remember with one of my interviews at the universities, they couldn't believe we were building a plane. They thought it was one of those toy ones. They said, what, like this big? And I said, no, that's the size of this room.
So getting the kit now is a really exciting thing. And getting the kids to see how you're going to turn that box of raw materials into something that will take off.
So the Build a Plane Challenge, the aims of the challenge were really to motivate young people in areas of science, technology, engineering and maths and give them real life experience in those subjects. To encourage awareness in aerospace, the sort of career paths they might be able to take if they were interested, and also to enhance the Royal Aeronautical Society's links and Boeing's links with local community, and also hopefully inspire teachers to promote STEM across teaching community. Back in 2008 sometime, the bid process started. The Royal Aeronautical Society was looking for schools in areas that had significant aerospace activity, and strangely enough they forgot about Birmingham and Wolverhampton and didn't think it was worth asking us. But in 2010 we found out about the project and said that we were should be allowed to bid, and we did, and these are the winners: Yakeley in Farnborough, Marlin in Stroud, Bridge Learning Campus in Bristol, Arklewood and Phoenix School in Telford, and Wolverhampton Academy and Ernsford Grange in Coventry. So as Arklewood and Phoenix School and Wolverhampton Academy fall under our jurisdiction, we looked after those projects, and they were certainly the largest STEM projects this branch has ever taken on. The build process all started in 2011 when the first kit arrived at Arklewood, and then the following year we started on the Wolverhampton project, and we went through basic training with most of the youngsters. They don't often get a chance to do hands-on these days because the curriculum doesn't allow people to use woodworking skills and metalworking skills, unfortunately, and a lot of the workshops have been taken out. The first problem we had was most kids are taught metric nowadays, and the kit was imperial, was American, so it was all in imperial measurements. So we had to talk about feet and inches and fractions, which was a bit unusual for the youngsters. Sub-assembly and kitting started and ran in parallel with the build, but it took a long time because we only had one day or one afternoon a week during term time to build. We had some great help from sponsors. They gave us components like rivets, paint, and also tools and equipment that saved the project quite a lot of money. And we also had some great support from volunteers and school staff. That's a picture of the kit arriving at Arklewood. You can see here on the left-hand side, this is the main part of the kit, the welded steel framework that forms the cabin. Everything else is bolted to it. It's all aluminium tube, which is bent to shape, cut to size, and riveted or bolted together. And here's the Wolverhampton Academy project. We had the, I don't point to it, oh yeah. This was used to be the groundsman's workshop, and we were able to, you can't quite see, it's that little round circle there on the left-hand side of the centre picture. That's where we were based. Very good facility, except it was freezing cold in the winter. But we did our best. Incidentally, I started my aviation career at that school when I was 10. I was flying control line aeroplanes on that playing field. That's a long time ago. That was the Wolverhampton Model Aero Club, and I used to watch where that line of trees are there, Penford Airfield, which is now being built on. was operating, and I used to think I'd love to be able to fly one of those aeroplanes. Little did I think in those days that I would actually build an aeroplane on that site and then fly the kids over the school. It's quite an amazing sort of circle that I've been on there. That's a picture showing some of the work that the kids were doing. You can see there it's mostly mechanical assembly, drilling holes, putting clecos in the holes to keep the parts in position, and then learning how to rivet. There's some hydraulics to do for the brakes and some avionics as well to fit. And there's a picture of the volunteers. Most of the volunteers are retired engineers, some with aerospace experience, and we were able to work one-to-one in most cases with the students. We didn't really let them go off on their own, just in case mistakes were made, and that can be quite costly and dangerous, of course, in the long run. There's another picture there. We can see some of the electrics going in behind the instrument panel. We had some great help from the RAF. Some of those components may be recognised. We didn't, often we had too many students to give hands-on activities on the aircraft. So we had ancillary activities, building model aeroplanes, for instance, and there you can see a flight simulator with Ravi, who was our instructor. That was a good idea because it taught kids the different instruments, how the aeroplane flew, and we could also give them some navigation exercises. You can see there a chart that's Ravi's holding there. Once we completed the aircraft, then we started on the flight phase. Each aircraft has to go through a sort of flight schedule, test schedule. And 2013, the Yakeley School was complete in flying, and 14 Marlin School. And then in 2015, we followed with the Telford aircraft, which first flew at Hayley Green. And then in 2017, the Coventry aircraft flew, and then the Wolverhampton aircraft. And we're just working on the Bristol aircraft now. That's based at Gloucester, and hopefully on Saturday we'll finish the test schedule. Fingers crossed, weather permitting. And during the build phase, we did take the aircraft out to different events so that the youngsters can get to talk to people about the project. It's the best way to show their achievements is by actually taking it out to a wider audience. And once they were flying, then we took them to air shows. And the Marlin School and the Stroud School aircraft actually did fly in 2014 at Farnborough. Somebody suggested that because of that, then we should fly Foxtrot Tango, the Telford aircraft, at Cosford. And I thought, that's never going to happen. You can't just tip up at an air show and fly an aeroplane. Anyway, the Society have got quite a few strings that they can pull, and they got us a slot. And then it fell to me to find out what was required to get a display authorisation. It wasn't straightforward. There's quite a lot of hoops to jump through. And at that time, it was after the Shoreham disaster, if you might remember that, and a lot of changes were happening in the airshow world. So there's a document that gives you all the rules and regulations called CAP 403, and that's 174 pages of different rules and regulations that you have to know to become a display pilot. And that was changing all the time as recommendations came out. So it was a moving target for me. But eventually, in May 2016, I was awarded a display authorisation. And I did my first display at Cosford in front of a crowd of over 50,000 people, which was quite exciting. Made even more so because of the weather. Originally, I was scheduled to fly my display immediately before the Red Arrows. So that meant I had to get the display done on time and down exactly to the second, which added to the pressure. And I was quite relieved when, because of the weather, I was rescheduled and pulled forwards. It gave me a little bit of leeway. I had to relax a little bit. Very exciting time. And it was great to be able to display an aeroplane that was built in Telford to a local crowd. And I think people appreciated that. We also had Whiskey Alpha, the Wolverhampton aircraft, on static display in the hangar, and we were able to show young people how it operated, sit in the seat and operate the controls. Then somebody suggested, why don't we fly it at Farnborough? And I thought, how on earth are we going to fly an amateur-built aeroplane at Farnborough and an amateur pilot with some of the greatest test pilots and display pilots in the world? The biggest air show in the world. I thought, that's never going to happen. But it did, and I went down with my colleagues to Farnborough, had to do a display, a validation display in front of the Flying Control Committee to make sure that it was safe, and it's quite a complex airspace around Farnborough, so that was indeed a challenge. Anyway, they deemed it safe, and they gave me authority to do the display. We left the aircraft there, because that was a week before the display started, and we were in some magnificent hangars, the cleanest hangars I've ever seen. They're the ones that are used by the billionaires with their executive jets, and you could eat your breakfast off the floor, it was that clean. We were stable mated with a Typhoon from British Aerospace's display team, senior pilot in BAE Systems. I've got a short video here which will show you some of the things that I went through in the display. We were probably the smallest aircraft in the air show. You can see dwarfed there by DC-9.
Taxi Alpha 1. Okay, hold Alpha 1, monitor display. Hold Alpha 1 and monitor display. Build a plane, line up and wait 24. Build a plane, aerodrome QFD 1018, operate not above height 3,200 feet. Build a plane 1018, not above 3,200 feet. Build a plane. Build a plane, the Stardust are just departing, will be holding to the southwest. Clear for display, surface wind 240 degrees, 1 knot.
Good afternoon, everybody. This aircraft, which is taxiing out for takeoff now, is a RAeS ES Coyote microlight, flown by Graham Wiley, a member of the local Royal Aeronautical Society branch in the Midlands. This has been made from a kit by students at Erplewood Technology College and Phoenix School near Telford. The challenge programme itself has inspired 12 other schools throughout the United Kingdom to make their own aircraft. The aim of this Build a Plane Challenge programme is to motivate young people about science, technology, engineering and maths, STEM. And so far, probably around 13,000 young people have seen these aircraft made by students at various displays and events throughout the UK. The programme also develops key skills in team working and project management that is so vital to future careers. Funded primarily by the Boeing Aircraft Company, who today celebrate 100 years in aviation, the Challenge programme is a partnership of a number of organisations and groups. The Royal Aeronautical Society, which celebrates its 150th anniversary this year, won the programme.
Build a plane, clear to land runway 24, long surface wind 260 degrees, 8 knots.
The local Cosford, Birmingham and Wolverhampton branch overseeing this aircraft in the flying display today. The Ministry of Defence seconded graduates to help manage the programme, and the Light Aviation Association, who will also celebrate an anniversary this year, their 70th, advised the programme carry out regular inspections and issue the permit to fly.
Aerodrome QFE 1018 operate number height 3,200 feet. Display surface wind 250 degrees 8 knots. Plane 180 backtrack vacate left at console 1.
And this is the Wolverhampton aircraft, Gold Whiskey Alpha, still under construction, but in the Royal Aeronautical Society chalet. And Boeing had organised Discovery Channel to do a documentary about the project. And you can see here the Wolverhampton kids featuring in that documentary. And there's the team. We had a great day out and excellent aircraft, good display. And this whole display was designed for young people. It was the Futures Day display, and the whole idea was to attract young people, to give them an idea of what sort of careers they could get in aerospace, both civil and defence. In 2017 we continued with lots of other events, the biggest one being the first flight of Whiskey Alpha, the Wolverhampton aircraft, and we had a superb celebration afterwards at the local winery at Heatley Green, and then we carried on with flying Foxtrot Tango. We did a number of air experience flights with different youth organisations. We were on static display again at RAF Cosford, and then we were invited to fly into RIAT, the Royal International Air Tattoo at Fairford, and that was a marvellous experience. We were there for a few days. We had lots of interested young people coming to see us in the Techno Zone, but we also had a number of air crews from around the world. It's the biggest military air show in Europe, and people from everywhere came along, and we were particularly of interest to the Japanese crew of their air tanker, and got to know them quite well. There's a whole story associated with that, which I haven't got time to go into, but if you want to talk to me afterwards, I can give you some of the highlights. Safe to say, it's the greatest hangar party I've ever been to at Fairford on the Sunday after the show. We then went on to Weston and the Youth Education Day there. Lots of different youth organisations came along, sat in Foxtrot Tango, and had a look at what else was going on around the airfield. We went to Old Warden again, to the Shuttleworth Edwardian pageant. And then we went to the LAA rally in September, and that was the first opportunity we'd got to get all three aircraft. We got the Wolverhampton one, the Telford one, and also the Coventry one together, all in one marquee. And after that, then we flew to RAF Scampton for their air show. Again, all three of us were there. That was quite exciting, because the weather was not the best. In 2018, we flew all of the students in Whiskey Alpha, more air experience flights in Foxtrot Tango, and we went to Shuttleworth again. And we were back at Farnborough as well, but this time only static. And Shuttleworth Family Day was another opportunity for me to display. In order to do that, I had to get my display authorisation revalidated, and I was fortunate to have Dodge Bailey. You may know Dodge Bailey. He's was up until recently the chief test pilot of the Shuttleworth collection, and he's flown just about every aircraft in the collection, going back right to one of the oldest aircraft still flying in the world, the Blériot, which was built in 2008, up to the DH-88 Comet, which is probably the most difficult aircraft to fly on the British register. And So it was a great honour for me to have his stamp in my logbook. And we had exhibited again then at the LAA rally that September. Now I must talk about Georgia Williams. Georgia was a student at Arklewood School. She started the project off at Arklewood, but sadly she didn't get a chance to see the completion because she was tragically murdered. And her family started a trust fund in her name. We named the aircraft after her, GW for Georgia Williams, FT for Ferret, which was a nickname. And the parents set this trust fund up to enable other youngsters with an adventurous spirit like Georgia's, so that they could take part in adventure activities, one of which was to take people on experience flights in the plane she helped to build. And that's why the Trust bought it, so we could continue to operate it, and it's based here in Hangar 15. This is a short BBC report of the occasion when I took Georgia's mother up for a flight in the plane she helped to build.
Hello and welcome to Midlands Today. The headlines tonight: taking to the skies in the plane her daughter helped to build. The mother of murdered teenager Georgia Williams.
You're laughing at me actually because I'll be doing this and she'll be thinking, oh, maybe I can do something really like exciting for a change.
The mother of murdered Shropshire teenager Georgia Williams was taken to the skies in a plane her late daughter helped to build. 17-year-old Georgia was a member of an after-school club that was building the plane kit which had been donated by Boeing. He was murdered by Jamie Reynolds before it was completed. Graham Little reports.
Lynette Williams is about to fly in a plane her murdered daughter made but didn't survive to see finished.
I know she'll be up there today with me and she'll be laughing at me actually because I'll be doing this and she'll be thinking, oh, maybe I can do something really like exciting for a change.
She took off from Wolverhampton Airport with one of the pilots who helped Georgia and other students build it. Georgia was 17 when she was murdered in a sexually motivated attack near her home in Wellington by Jamie Reynolds, who's now serving a whole life sentence.
You're thinking, which bits did Georgia work on? And think about that, it's quite strange really, isn't it?
Yes. Well, I think you were sitting on the part that she made.
Georgia Williams Trust, a charity set up to inspire young people, has bought the plane and will help youngsters like these Air Scouts in future. Also on the ground, Georgia's grandparents and the school teacher who spent hours helping Georgia and others build the plane.
Very special.
Yeah.
Beautiful it is. It's I think she was very enthusiastic about Georgia.
We've always said that when plane flies, the Georgia flies. That's the whole idea behind the plane. And she flew her along today.
Beautiful sunshine welcomed Lynette to the skies, and afterwards she was elated.
Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. I really, really enjoyed it. I feel she planned the day for me in a way, and that it's been such a beautiful day. And that I feel that her DNA is in this plane really to a degree. She was with me today.
Georgia had always wanted to take the first flight in the plane and was learning to fly with ambitions to join the RAF.
Oh, thank you, Mary.
Her mum hopes each time young people go in the plane, part of Georgia will fly too. Joanne Riddle, BBC Midlands Today, Hayden Green.
So all of the young people that helped to build these aeroplanes were given the opportunity to fly in them, and many had never flown in an aeroplane at all. And I've got a short video here that shows what it was like. Just look at their faces.
It's not every day you get to build a plane in school.
And met the plane go up and down. I've met people who I didn't think that I'd be friends with, who had more experience, and designers that I want to be.
I'd like to I take electronics and graphics, and this actually helps me.
Simply like the really hard to college now. I work at UTC. Oh, UTC, right, excellent. Yeah, I've been there for about 5 years. Oh, as long as that, good God. It's amazing how time goes. Yeah.
So, you know, we built it and him to be flying in it. You can't be terrified at the same time, really proud.
So that's the formation of coyotes. This one at the top left is the one that was built in Coventry, and we've got Telford and Wolverhampton, and this one down here, Lima Charlie, is the latest one we're working on, that was built at Bristol. Now I'd like to hand over to Stuart. Stuart Blakemore was the teacher at Wolverhampton, and some of the young people who worked on the project.
Thank you. Ravi, Ivana, you stand up. So we've got some of the people who have been affected just to come along. Alethea is also involved and she's cringing. John is the one working on the front suspension, which I remember took us 3 weeks just to get it to fit. I've got no aviation background. I left school in 1975 and I went back as a teacher in 2006. And you think, what on earth has happened? You know, it is just the whole system now is just classroom focused, league tables. Nobody has any fun. From my point of view, I think it's completely wrong. Education should be about changing outcomes. It should be about introducing to the kids experiences that they can't otherwise have. So you saw Ravi, and this look on his face when he flew off. Ravi, do you just want to say a couple of words?
As much as I love my school and I love the classroom and I love being in front of my computer, as a lot of people are going to say, the building plane has such an impact on me. With my autism, I don't socialise with anyone.
So he gets on with our volunteers really well.
And therefore, when I came to build a plane, it got me to socialise because I had to talk with the volunteers, with the students, with everyone to find out what we were doing and how the plane works and everything. So having got me in that situation, it really took things off for me and it changed everything from just being the usual kind of walk into the classroom to kind of a bit, what am I doing today? Are we doing something different? And now when I'm doing my A-levels, there is no built plane and I'm up every night doing work. Do you know what? It's not fun at all. It's not fun at all. There have been nights when I've been crying. Right after school, I've been crying because of incidences and things happening at school. And I just wish I had the plane there.
So what did build the plane mean to you, Ravi? I mean, I know Ravi got on particularly well with one of our volunteers called Les, who developed a really strong bond. So what did...
I think the biggest thing that the play did for me is it brought a lot of things of friendship there, that I had a group that I could go and speak to confidentially, that I felt happy speaking to. I wasn't just kind of locked away all the time.
You see, thank you.
Just like
for me, we started this, the whole point behind this in theory was the STEM. And it turned out to be about so much more than the STEM. The relationships, the overcoming issues, overcoming problems. We took 6 years. And one of the things I think that hopefully comes over as implicit, but I want to make it explicit, is the enthusiasm and the commitment of the volunteers. 6 years we were on this project, which was thought to be a real drawback. It was only supposed to take 2 years. And for various reasons it got delayed. When did you get involved in bidding for it, John? 2010. We did the bid. 2010 we bid for it, and John would have been in what year? 9. He's at university now, so it's 3rd year. It's for all the people like me who know what the position. So year 9 is the 3rd year. So John was in the 3rd year when we bid for it. And now he's at university. Should have taken 2 years, but all those delays, all the problems, the longevity, in those 6 years, I'm trying to think, Graham, I think once we had to cancel a session. Once, in 6 years. The volunteers never let the kids down. They rocked up every week. Twice a week we ran some sessions.
Just a question.
Yes.
Some of the kids then would have seen it start, but weren't there to see it finish.
The older kids, we got them back from university
to
take a flight. We impacted, I think, and Ivana, we impacted about 40 kids. Ivana John was the first lead student, so he was involved in the paperwork and the bid. Ivana took over as the lead student when John was in year 11 and had to start doing his GCSEs, and they had to reduce the involvement in the build plane. So Ivana took over. She's an absolutely outstanding young woman, and as is her little sister. So you've got the volunteers working, but the effort and the energy and the enthusiasm, it spreads. You know, school has just become tick box. You know, this is your target, you've got to hit your target. There's no, and I mean, you know, I could do another lecture on the inadequacies of the school system. It would not be as fun and wouldn't get the audience, but nevertheless, you know. And it's not newer. If we hadn't had the support of the principal, who let us get on with it. And what for you, Ivana, why did you want to get involved?
I didn't really do much in year 7, like the first year of school, and I just wanted to get a bit involved in the school curriculum and everything, try something new. And then once I did, it started building up from there. I ended up joining cadets, so I'm part of the Air Cadets now. It's helped me progress there. I've won awards from cadets for being part of the plane. It's given me a lot of experience, helped me with social skills, leadership and everything. And it also helps with skills that you don't learn at school. So school is literally going into a classroom, you write things down, learn about the processes, but never actually get hands-on and do the processes. And it gives you that more experience for getting a job.
Just developing, just hang on a second, just developing. These are some of the outreach things that we did, so the kids, you know, went to, who's that woman in the middle of the trip, John, who's that? Carol Vorderman. They were all thrilled they met Carol Vorderman. There is John, standing next to Carol Vorderman. You know, this is Roshni, down in the, is that in the House of Lords? House of Commons, sorry. What's the next one? Oh yeah, this is really, really good. There's a friend of Graham's known as Roy Millington, who's got a Harrier in his barn just the other side of Bridge North. And it was fabulous. We ended up with the most wonderful group of volunteers and the most wonderful group of kids. And they all got on well. It was across race, it was across age. You know, by the time they'd been working on this for such a long time, they were just mates. You can see, you know, the guy with the walking sticks and things. And we went along to Roy, and he just let him climb all over his Harry, and just let them just get in it and sit in it and everything. And then he fired it off, you know, which was really, really exciting. So we got out angry, you know, everyone there fingering his. And afterwards, the noise was phenomenal. Because Ravi said to Roy, he said, was that full power? And Roy said, that was just the starter motor. It's got something like a 2-inch Lucas jet engine starter motor.
Excuse
So,
me, Stuart.
yeah.
Can I remind you, we're still waiting for your risk assessment, please?
Yeah, good point. What's going out to exhibitions and talking to people coming up asking questions. When you talk about the soft skills of Anna, when you talk about that being interviewed, Alethea was cringing when her voice was on the interview with Discovery Channel. Oh no, it's so embarrassing. That is the first time we put the wings on it. Yeah, John, stand up. Stand up. So this is John. Turn and face the John. So that's John. That would be in year 10. And that's John when we got the wings on it. But that longevity and that problem solving and the fun and the excitement, it made, if you like, an elite group within the school. And they would talk to each other. And eventually, what's the next slide? I want to get onto that one. Yes, here's Alethea again on the front page of the Royal Aeronautical, on the cover of the Royal Aeronautical Society. I mean, yeah, this is phenomenal. This is absolutely phenomenal that ordinary people can make this. We have had students be offered jobs and apprenticeships on the strength of them. There's one lad who, his picture's on there, his education is statemented, which means he needs special help. In the moment he's doing automotive apprenticeship, and he was given the automotive apprenticeship because he could show them on his phone the pictures he'd done. How do you differentiate? How do you show what you're worth as an individual? How do you show your personality if you don't get projects like this to show how different you are? What's the next one? Okay, there's the one. John, from your point of view, because you're involved right on the bid, this is what input. Because you know, I went back to school, like I said, I was 49 and I retrained as a teacher. I would not advise any of you to do it, right? I mean, this is what employers want. And I reckon that the red ones, is there anything that you pick up on there, John? Anything that you pick up on in terms of the project letting you get involved in?
Well, to be honest, I couldn't outline how much you get from the project because there's way more than that you get from the project, to be honest. The kids, because you go to these events, you go to like Farnborough, for example, there's so many interesting people that you talk to and you sort of get all this sort of knowledge from them. Just look, like we went to an event here not long ago and there was a guy some of the students spoke to, and he used to be on it's a submarine called the Trident, that's it. He used to command Trident. Some of the kids were just like, you used to be near nuclear, silos and missiles, and he explained how America is different to the UK through their use of all this, that and all, and the kids were just amazed with all this knowledge. Like, you just hear about it, to them it's just a whole new world, just these little opportunities that these students got involved with. Like myself from the start, I've done a lot more like at the start, but then when we started getting people like Alethea, Ravi and Ivana, the amount of experience they've got just from people without the project, and sort of the opportunities they get talking, sort of meeting these people, going to London, going to Farnborough, all these opportunities that they would never have thought of ever.
It's much, much more than just an aeroplane, isn't it? Much, much more. What's the next slide?
I was just going to go on to...
Yeah, so from my point of view, I've just got nothing but pride for having been involved with the project. I don't think now we would get approval to do it, because the budgets and everything. But it is absolutely life-changing for the individual students involved. It's just magnificent, and I hope that this enthusiasm that has been implicit in what you've talked about, all the training, and I know you enjoyed it, but that effort to get down to the flying weight, I sympathise. I sympathise. He was not allowed to fly me. Not a word. Not a word. Okay, yes, you bullied me throughout. When the kids saw the gentle bullying, I put up with. But they see dynamics between people that you don't get in school. The relationship between students and staff is quite rare. Ravi, is there any final comment you want to make before we
So I
sit
just
down?
want to say that since this plan stopped, I do nothing at school apart from my wonderful head student role that I've been blessed with.
But you think that you're becoming head boy? You think that comes down to...
When I had my interview for head students at school, the first thing I said was literally I've done the build plane. Even though Mr Wilson and whoever it is now knew it, I just said I'd do this. When I go to interviews, when I had to go for an interview for my work experience, I literally said it. And I was like, really? They were saying, is it a toy plane? I said, no, it's an actual plane. I said, it's literally half the size or even double the size of this room.
And somebody like Ravi is let down by the system because the system, Ravi is not a British standard pupil. You know, he doesn't conform to BS, whatever it is for pupil. You know, but you can tell. Nobody knows. What are you laughing at? Everybody showed me that picture of Farnborough, that row of kids in a line. What are you laughing at? Everybody says, what's the you laughing at? I don't know. But this has given the children the scope to grow as people, and you know, I'm just supremely grateful for being involved in it. So we will let Graham. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, guys. That's wonderful. I'd just like to finish off now and bring everyone up to date and look at our plans for the future. As I said before, we're flight testing on the Bristol aircraft, TBLC. We did the first flight in April, and we're just getting to the point now when we can hopefully finish it off on Saturday. We've done some air experience flights with Foxtrot Tango. We've flown the apprentices from the museum here. We were at the Cosford Air Show again this year, and we were honoured with a visit by the Red Arrows. And you can see some of the arrows around Foxtrot Tango and Red One sitting in the pilot seat. And we're going back to Shuttleworth in July, and of course we'll fly all of the students that we can in Lima Charlie as soon as we get the permit. We've also been asked to get involved in another project at Aston University Engineering Academy, and that was a part build project. They ran out of volunteers and needed some help, and thanks to Alan there in the audience, put us in touch, and now we're really enjoying our work with those people at Aston. It's a fantastic school, great facilities, wonderful staff, and the students are marvellous. So that'll keep us busy for the next few months. And we're also working on this project, STEM High Flyers. It's a charity that we've set up here. We want to keep the group of volunteers and the track record that we've got going. So as the society isn't funding another build, we'd like to fund one ourselves as a branch. So this charity, STEM High Flyers, is going to build a different aircraft to the one that we've been talking about. You can see here at the bottom. It's called a Sherwood Ranger. It's a biplane. It's got two cockpits, open cockpits in tandem formation, and it needs a lot of different skills to build it. There's woodwork, metalwork, and some composite work, and a completely different method of covering. So it'll be an exciting project. We've got schools in Purton and in Cotswold interested in taking on the work. All we need to do is raise the money. We're looking for £50,000 to complete that project, but we can do it in stages. So maybe the first stage will be to build the wings. We've got 4 of those, so we can spread the work around different schools. So if anybody would like to donate, we've got a donate button on our Facebook page. You can go there, and I'm sure Tony would take any offers today after the lecture. So I'd just like to say thank you very much for listening. Hope you enjoyed that, and see if there's any questions.
Right, ladies and gents, thanks ever so much for your attention. There's an awful lot of us in this audience that are actively involved in this project, and it's definitely not stopping. Various of us alluded to the fact that we're working with schools in the Consell, Bilbrook, Burton area. I had the privilege of making a very, very cut-down presentation, version of this presentation that Graham showed, mostly his photos, 2 days ago to a Year 7 group. Get that? A Year 7 group, 12 years old. On Tuesday morning, and I said, this is the challenge. Anybody interested, your staff are going to be the ones that choose the group of 12 kids that get chosen, and we're going to start in September. And there was not a single one that didn't put their hand up. There was 120 kids in that assembly that I was running, and bless him, one lad came up to me at the end and said, is there any way I can short circuit the selection process? And I thought, with initiative like that, youngster, you've just done it. So, yeah, we are obviously stretched with what you've heard about the project going on at Aston University and still running Foxtrot Tango, still finishing Bristol, starting the Sherwood Ranger in September with 3 local schools. Anybody else wants to volunteer? I've heard an awful lot of expressions of interest this evening. Any of the youngsters that want to come back and help of an evening and let them know, let the 12 and 13-year-olds know what a benefit this is. We'd love to see you, we really would. Who's been giving us ideas about where to go for funding? Right? We need funding coordinators, we need all sorts. Graham referred to people as armchair engineers, that we're going to get people out of retirement and encourage you to come and join us. You don't have to be engineers, there are thousands of other skills that we need. So just keep in touch, please.
To join me in thanking them in the normal way, could I also extend that thanks to all our volunteers, some of whom are here tonight, some are not. Ladies and gentlemen, let's show our thanks to you. Just to show the love you really, with the woodland side. I knew you wouldn't be wearing them.
Hi, what's this? Thank you.
And he will show you how to tie.